Gone at that price.
I mean, we'll bring it back at $449, but you know.
Okay, so
you might want to buy it for less.
Oh yeah,
it's up to you.
I would say absolutely. Okay, so we have some of those opportunity buys that you mentioned at the very beginning of the show. This is one of them. $99.95 is a phenomenal sale price, but in terms of what you're getting here, and the flex pay on top of it, 3 monthly flex payments, that's a $50 savings. I wish you could see Mike's he's off the camera right now, and he's just like shaking his head.
50
like,
bucks off.
You're kidding me?
So here's the thing. So I have 2 American silver dollars in brilliant uncirculated condition. Silver has gone up about 35% in the last 5 months, 35%. So my response to that is lowering our price 33%. So we lowered our price 33%, and the silver in this is fairly significant. So here's what we have. These are 100%. This is the last year of issue of the Morgan silver dollar, and the first year of issue, technically, of the peace dollar. They did a 1921 peace dollar, but it's considered a commemorative. So this is the first year that it's available. These are original, brilliant, uncirculated United States government silver dollars. The last silver dollars, the Morgan silver dollar and the peace silver dollar, the last silver dollars made by the United States government. You're going to get both of them in brilliant uncirculated condition for basically, well, less than $50 a piece. Because it's $99.95 for the pair. That's not each. Yes. That's $90. Now I have here a nationally advertised catalog.
Okay. Which you can have, access to.
People always ask me, which catalog is that? Well, I don't like to necessarily mention it, but let's put it this way. When I was a 12-year-old paper boy building my collection, I ordered coins out of this catalog. Okay. That's how long they've been around.
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm older than 12.
No.
Yeah, believe it or not, long since that. So, but they've been around for long. They're highly respected. Absolutely as well they should be. But they sell these same exact coins. The Morgan silver dollar, the 21 Morgan at $138, and the peace silver dollar at $118. Okay. So they're individually. They are $256. They are $256 for what we are doing. So like at $149.95, right, at $149.95, and I've sold lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of these at $149.95. Sure. What I haven't done in years and years and years is sell these at $99.95 on this special sale price. So understand, and I've got limited quantities, so these are coins that I bought literally months and months ago before silver took off.
Okay, that's good. So that's why you're getting this additional special savings. 7 years ago, when silver was $50 an ounce, I sold these for $99 a piece. Yeah.
Actually, they're more like $119 a piece, is what they were at $50 silver. Silver then went to, basically adjusted for inflation, about 20, 25-year lows, right around in there, well, about 15 or 18-year lows is what that was. And now it's started kind of this march up, okay? This march up about 30% or so. But I bought these kind of before that, so I've got a very limited quantity of these. This is spectacular. So once again, that's not $99.95 per
for your
coin.
Choice.
You're going to get, now, and here's the other thing that people don't realize. These are not reprinted or restruck or redone in any way, shape, or form. These are 100% original United States government issued coins. And now you have to understand, so the United States government made a lot of Morgan silver dollars. The vast majority of them have been melted down by the United States government. So the United States government has melted down, they have melted down about 60 or 65% of all the Morgan silver dollars they ever made, they melted. Then everybody else, they made peace dollars with a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And then those peace dollars have been melted down over the years. So when people were getting these coins in 1964, you get this coin for $1. So in 1979 was it worth 50 bucks? People sold those and went to college, like me. I bought all my silver dollars when I was a paper boy back in the 1970s. I paid $1.30, $1.40, $1.60, $1.80 a piece. I made $34 a month. Okay?
And it was the silver dollar.
And I always bought silver dollars. I went to the coin club every other Tuesday. What was it? Every third Tuesday. Every third Tuesday, and then they had a little auction at the end, and I bought all my coins at the auction afterwards. So I buy about 25 silver dollars every single solitary month. And then later on in '79, silver went to $50 an ounce. I got about $60 a piece for every single one of them, and did 4 years of college on that. So that's a spectacular opportunity. Now, I don't know what silver is going to go up, down, or sideways. All I know is it's relatively low right now. You have look at the condition on this right
Mike,
here.
It's going to stamp 1921, 1922.
Yeah,
correct?
always 1921. Yeah, this is exact. These are the exact coins that you're getting here.
Unreal.
Look at this coin right here. It is. I'm going to pop this out of here.
We're super busy, by the way. Over 340 of these have been selected. So that's the majority of the quantity that we have available.
Yeah, look at this right here. So you've got this right here. Check that coin out. That is what you call Super Choice Gem Brilliant Uncirculated. Absolutely stunning. 1922 original piece dollar. And people always ask, why do you do that? Because when you strike a coin like this, and the die strikes the coin, it creates the silver flows into the voids of the die, and it creates what are called flow lines. And those flow lines reflect light in a very specific way, and it creates luster. And so when I turn this out, it looks like the spokes of a wheel. That's how people know. That's how coin collectors know that those are original, brilliant uncirculated coins. Absolutely spectacular opportunity for you there at $99.99.
That's one of those opportunity buys we mentioned at the beginning of the show. We didn't want you to miss out.
Hundreds and hundreds of these sold now.
And rarely when we do a special opportunity sale, we don't have flex pay. We have even 3 flex pays on top of that. So we'll keep you updated on availability there, 287-205.